Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to get a handle on one of the most powerful tools in your academic toolkit, the problem solution essay. And trust me, by the time we're done here, you'll have a super simple, clear blueprint to tackle any problem and argue for your solution with total confidence. You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. You're just staring at a blank page, you've got your assignment, but you have no idea where to even start. That blinking cursor on the screen feels more like the problem than the solution. Well, that's actually the very first problem we're going to solve today. So, what exactly is this type of essay? Think of it as your chance to be both a detective and an innovator. You get to dive deep into an issue, really look at different ways to fix it, and then you get to champion the best solution, backing it all up with solid proof. Honestly, it's a fantastic way to really sharpen your critical thinking skills. To make this easy, we're going to follow this simple roadmap. We've just talked about what this essay is, so next up, we'll walk through a simple 4-part blueprint for the structure. Then we'll dive into how to craft a great introduction, build out your solution in the body paragraphs, and finally, how to wrap it all up with a conclusion that really has an impact. Sound good? Let's do it. Okay, let's kick things off with your 4-part blueprint. Now, I know a full essay can seem kind of overwhelming, but it's really built on this surprisingly simple structure. Think of this as your secret weapon for organizing all your thoughts clearly and, most importantly, persuasively. And here it is. It really just boils down to 4 main parts. Step 1, your introduction. That's where you lay out the problem and state your thesis. Step 2, your first body paragraph, usually digs into the details of that problem. Step 3, the second body paragraph, is where you really start proposing and defending your solutions. And finally, Step 4, the conclusion, where you circle back to your main point and call your reader to action. And of course, you can always add more body paragraphs if you have more solutions, but this is the core framework. All right, let's break down that first part, crafting the introduction. This is your first impression, you know? It has to do some serious heavy lifting to set the stage for your entire argument and get your reader hooked from the get-go. Your intro really has 2 main jobs. First, you've got to describe the problem. Give your readers some context. Who does this affect? Where and when is it happening? And maybe most importantly, what are the stakes? Why should we care if this thing doesn't get solved? The second job, and this is absolutely critical, is to present your powerful thesis statement. And that brings us to a really big question. In this whole entire structure, what's the one sentence that really holds it all together? The one that drives your entire argument forward? You guessed it, it's the thesis statement. And this isn't just any old sentence, it's the engine of your essay. It tells your reader exactly what you're going to argue and how you plan to prove it. A strong thesis is honestly the difference between an essay that's confusing and one that's powerfully persuasive. Now, what's really cool about this slide is it shows the 2 main ways you can frame your thesis. Over on the left, you have the best solution approach. See how it argues why public transportation is the single best way to solve traffic? It even lists the reasons why. It's efficient, economical, and sustainable. Now compare that to the right, the various solutions approach. This thesis suggests that multiple things, knowledge and preparation, can solve a problem. The key takeaway here is to decide which approach is the best fit for your topic. All right, so you've nailed your introduction and you've got a killer thesis. Now what? Well, now we move on to building your solution. This is where you construct the body of your essay, where you actually deliver on the promise you made in your thesis and prove your points. This slide is gold. It shows you exactly how your thesis becomes the roadmap for your body paragraphs. See how each paragraph starts with a clear topic sentence? That's the TS there. For the best solutions thesis on the left, each of those reasons, efficient, economical, gets its own paragraph. For the various solutions thesis on the right, each solution gets its own paragraph. It keeps your argument super focused. Just remember, you've got to fill these paragraphs with supporting evidence, facts, examples, stats, to prove that topic sentence is true. Okay, time to put this into practice. A really good way to understand what makes a strong thesis is to see just how badly a weak one misses the mark. So let's take a look. How can we make this one better? So here's our problem thesis. What's wrong with it? Well, everything. It's not even a statement, it's just a topic. It doesn't identify a specific problem, and it sure doesn't propose any kind of solution. It gives you, the writer, and your reader absolutely 0 direction. It's just hanging there. Now let's build this up into something strong. Instead of just noisy roommates, check this out.
To solve issues with noisy roommates, students should establish ground rules, communicate openly, and create a shared schedule. See the difference? Night and day, right? This one is so much stronger because it clearly identifies the problem, issues with noisy roommates, and it lays out 3 specific actionable solutions. Now that is a map for an essay. All right, we have built our case, and now it's time for the grand finale, concluding with impact. A great conclusion doesn't just stop. It leaves your reader thinking and really reinforces why your argument was so important in the first place. So what does a great conclusion actually do? Well, first, you'll start by restating your thesis, but, use different words. Then you're going to zoom out of it. Talk about the problem and your solutions in a bigger, more general context. Finally, you end with a powerful closing statement. This could be a suggestion, a prediction about the future, or even a really thought-provoking question. Your goal is to leave your reader with something to chew on, and maybe even inspire them to make a change. And there you have it. A clear, simple blueprint for tackling any problem-solution essay that comes your way. You now have the structure and the strategy to turn a really complex challenge into a clear, persuasive, and powerful argument. So the only question left is, what problem are you going to solve first?